When they invited me here today to talk about authenticity, my first thought was maybe they'd picked the wrong person. Because I have to admit, I'm a bit of a fraud. In fact, I am a complete fraud. I am a complete fake. I am an imposter. And if the truth be told, I would imagine that you are also a fake and a fraud and an imposter. But you see, it isn't our fault. Since the beginning of time, we have been told as leaders to fake it. To fake it, how does that go? How does that saying go? That's right, to fake it until we make it, as though somehow or another leadership success will arise out of us, play acting a part. That all we have to do is pretend to be successful and then we will become successful. The only problem with that is that it is dramatically and undeniably wrong. And we suddenly find ourselves caught in a paradox. And what I mean by that, let me explain that. In a paradox, what I mean is that we have these twin needs that are incompatible. See, on the one side, what we really need is we need to come across as these perfect, polished professionals, right? But then on the other side, what we really need is we need to have these connections with our team. We need to connect with them in a deep and human way. The problem is, those two needs are incompatible. We cannot do both at the same time. As a matter of fact, the more perfect we seem, the less chance our team has to connect with us. And why is that? The reason is because as humans, what we are looking for when we connect with people is we're looking for people who are like us, who are similar to us, who share our same beliefs and our same interests and have our same beliefs in this system. And so when you're looking at people and you look at somebody and they're perfect, you don't feel like you are similar to them. What we need as humans is we need somebody that will have our backs if something goes wrong. Now, I'll give you an example of this. My wife and I were just in Amsterdam, and we were traveling through the center of Amsterdam on a train. And on this train, we overheard somebody say the word like this, Amsterdam. Amsterdam. He kept saying it that way. And my wife and I had to get up out of our seats and go find the owner of this accent. And we found a lovely couple named Butch and Ida who are from the American state of Georgia. Now, Georgia's here. We're from Florida, so it's like we're neighbors, right? And so what do we know about Butch and Ida? What we know is that they are probably very like us. They share the same beliefs and interests, and they like the same things that we like, that they dislike the same things that we like. It is that similarity that pulled us together. We became instant friends. And so what do we know about Butch and Ida? Chances are good that Butch and Ida like what we like. Well, what do you want to bet they like? Cornbread and buttermilk biscuits and sweet tea. And they probably dislike the same things that we dislike. They probably dislike traffic in downtown Atlanta and the Alabama Crimson Tide football team. The point is that we are immediately drawn to people who are like us. So what happens when we as leaders are faking anything? We're faking perfection. Well, what happens is that our team doesn't feel the room to connect with us. Now, here's a question for you. If you're a leader, how many of you think you're actually perfect? None of you, right? None of us. We don't believe that we're perfect. And as a matter of fact, if I went to your office and we sat down and we talked to, you would be very willing to tell me all of the times that you've come up short, that you've struggled, that you've failed. Those are the kinds of conversations that you would have with me. With me. But what do we do when we get in front of our teams? Hey, I'm as guilty as you are. What do we do when we get in front of our teams? All of a sudden, it's the $800 suit. It's the chemically whitened smile. It's the sports car in the driveway. All of that fake perfection comes at a price, right? It is the thing that distances our team from us. The distance between them and us widens. So what happens when we pretend to be something we're not? What happens when we are fake? Well, the connection's impossible. Because after all, who connects with fake? We're up to our necks right now in fake, aren't we? We've got fake everything. We've got fake news and fake nails. We've got fake purses. We've got fake everything. Everywhere you go, everything is fake. But with fake people, all of a sudden that matters. With fake people, all of a sudden that counts too much. Now we take it personally. With fake people, now it's too important. I know when I go around the country and I talk to leaders, this idea of authenticity as a leadership skill is a bit of a hard sell. Because it does not sound like a leadership skill to be authentic. But in a world that is so fake, in a world with that much fake, it is the genuine moment, it is the authentic moment when all of a sudden we find that connection. Let me give you a couple of examples. In 2009, Domino's Pizza had a quality problem. They really struggled with this. They did a survey. The survey came back and they found out that people really, they kind of hated the pizza. I mean, really, they hated the pizza. They did. They said things like, the crust tastes like cardboard. The sauce tastes like ketchup. Somebody actually said, I'd rather eat the box it came in than eat your pizza. Now, the CEO, Patrick Doyle, could have hidden those comments away. He could have moved on from that. But instead, his authentic moment was he said, no, this is what we're going to do. And he bought full-page ads in major newspapers around the country. And across the top of this, he put those comments. Can you imagine? He said up there, he said, crust tastes like cardboard. The sauce tastes like ketchup. And underneath that, he said, we heard you. Underneath that, he said, we're working on it. And will you please give us another chance? Did it work? Yeah, it worked marvelously. Since 2009, Domino's Pizza has gone up, the stock has gone up 600%. They have grown faster than Amazon and Apple and McDonald's in that same period of time. See, we understand, we connect with the pizza guy who's just struggling. It's his struggle that we connect with. Because do you ever struggle? Of course you do. We all struggle. And it's through his weakness that we feel the room to connect with his. Because he was authentic, people connected with him. This is Jenna Kuchar. Jenna Kuchar is a wedding photographer and a very successful blogger. This is her and her husband on vacation in Hawaii. Now, when she posted this photo on her blog, the most unexpected thing happened. People said, now you have to understand, people on her blog, so they're already subscribers, they're already fans, they said on her blog things like, how does a woman that looks like you get a man that looks like that? Now can you imagine being fat shamed on your own blog by your own fans? Can you imagine that? And now Jenna would have been understandable if she just hit the delete key and moved on, but she said, no, we're going to talk about this. And she wanted to talk about what it meant to be fat shamed. She wanted to talk about what it meant to be what she says is a curvy girl. And she said, we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about what it means to wake up every day and struggle with your self-esteem. Do y'all ever struggle with your self-esteem? Of course you do. We all do. It is through her weakness that we found the connection. And so many new people went to her blog, and for the first time they were engaged with Jenna, and they said, Jenna, that's my story. That's the way I feel. That's what I'm dealing with every single day. It is through her weakness that we found room to connect with her. She's now one of the most important bloggers in the United States. See, here's what I want you to understand, is that truth builds trust, and trust builds truth. And truth is the necessary connection, the necessary foundation for connection. It is in that moment, in that authentic moment, where people connected with her. Now, my authentic moment happened when I was a new leader in an organization. I had just joined this organization. They had brought me in to run a department. I had an entire department that I was going to run. First thing they wanted me to do was to create revenue projections for the next year and send them to corporate. And I did that. Revenue projections, sent them away to corporate, and then I had a team meeting with all of the people in my team. For the first time we got together, and there's a guy in the back, and he's doing math in the corner of his paper. And he looks up at me in horror, and he says, Daniel, did you know that your math was wrong? I said, of course I didn't know my math was wrong. I wouldn't have sent it away if I knew my math was wrong. But he was right. My math was wrong, and not by a little bit. It was wrong by almost $200,000. That is a massive error. That is a fireable offense. That's the era where you go and you get your box and you get your stuff from your desk and you leave. And honestly, I was a young man. I didn't know what to do. I had never been in this situation before. But my authentic moment happened when I stood up and I just confessed to them, and I'll confess to you here today. I can't do math. Now, I know people say that, and they'll just be in the hallway and go, oh, I can't do math. But this, for me, is like something serious. I mean, if you can't read, the word for that is illiterate. But if you cannot do math, then the word for that is innumerate. And that's me. There's just something messed up in there. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work for me. And I've struggled with this my entire life. But always before, I'd had a workaround. I could take my papers and shove them over here and say, Debbie, would you take a look at that and tell me if I made any mistakes? Knowing full well that she's going to capture all of my mistakes and fix them before they go out to somebody that's important. But I was new in this organization, and I didn't have that workaround. I didn't have a Debbie in this organization, and I had done this before anybody else had seen them. And my team looked at me, and I'm sure they thought, where in the heck are we getting the leaders in this organization? I mean, we hire somebody to run an entire department, and they can't even do simple mathematics. But for whatever reason, they liked me. They thought for a minute, and then they said, okay, let's do this. And they opened up all of their financial projections for the following year, all the spreadsheets, all the Excel, and then began trying to find a way out of my mess. And they did this with the budget. You've probably done this at home where you rob Peter and pay Paul, and you move that number to that and that number to that, and you get this column to line up, and then you shove that aside. You make that and divide by 4, and over again, 3 hours of work on this problem. At the end of it, they solved the problem. They saved my job, but I stood back and I watched them. And when they finally fixed it all, they stood up and they high-fived and they hugged. This was a team that had never been a team before. And this time they came together as a team for the first time. Not through my strength as a leader, but through my weakness. See, here's what I want you to understand, is that imperfection doesn't disqualify us from leadership. Imperfection actually makes us infinitely more qualified. When we talk about our own flaws, it's like we put a sign out front that says, imperfect people are welcome. What is it you want your team to do? You want them to think outside the box. You want them to get outside of their comfort zone. You want them to take chances. You want them to embrace change. But then if we made it a criminal enterprise for you to have a failure, then no wonder they're struggling with that. You know, I'm very thankful for the people that invited me here today to talk about this. I think it's a great subject. I think it's something we really do need to talk about. I don't have all the answers, though. As much as I would like to have all the answers, I don't. I just think that we need to talk about it. We need to talk about being authentic in our boardrooms. We need to talk about being authentic in our hallways and with our teams. We just need to talk about it. I'm hoping that this starts a larger conversation. Because sometimes when I think about that disengaged worker problem, you know, I think maybe the problem isn't with them at all. Maybe the problem is with us. Maybe they showed up, you know, all eager and fired up and ready to work, and we showed up fake and frauds and imposters. And I think sometimes the answer isn't just creating more perfect people. Sometimes the answer may be that we just all need to learn how to be more human, warts and all. Thank you.